All right, we go back to the top story now, of course, emanating from evidence that was given at the Commission of Inquiry into state capture. Today, our SABC News reporter, Manqoba Mchunu, joins us in studio now to talk a bit about that. Manqoba, thanks for your time. Well, a bit of drama at the Commission today. We saw, of course, the former Deputy National Director of Public Prosecutions, Nomgcobo Jiba, wanting to stop the evidence of Mxolisi Nxasana. Tell us more.
Of course, Griselda, that was an unexpected move by Nomgcobo Jiba today at the state hearing, at the State Commission hearing. Of course, a lawyer, Advocate Vuyani Ngalwana, making a representation on her behalf that, in fact, the testimony of Nxasana should not be continued. Of course, he used a procedure based on the procedure of the Commission itself, in so far as the fact that whoever should be implicated by a witness who's going to be testifying at the Commission should be given a notice 2 weeks before that actually happens. So 14 days should be given for whoever will be implicated to be able to be told how she will be implicated firstly and which parts of the evidence will implicate her. So she says this was not done. And that's the reason why she says Nxasana cannot continue to give testimony that will implicate her. Of course, she says this will prejudice her if, of course, she doesn't know how he will implicate her in his testimony. And that's the reason why she says that she wants this testimony blocked. And, of course, the judge saying that he understands her fully what she says. According to procedure, that should have been followed. And, of course, she has a case to actually stand on. And that's the reason why he says then that that evidence should then be left out. It will also be continued then at a later stage.
Well, Manqoba, this is not the first time that Nomgcobo Jiba's name comes up at the Commission of Inquiry into state capture. We saw the evidence of the former KZN Hawks boss, Johan Boyson, as well as the former IPID head, Robert McBride, also implicating her. Talk to us a bit about the politics of why she wants this evidence blocked by Nxasana.
Well, of course, Griselda, recall that Nomgcobo Jiba as well as Lawrence Mkhwebu have been axed by the president just a few months ago, in fact, in April. And you recall that this is after that commission by the former Chief Justice Yvonne Mokgoro that looked into their fitness to hold office, which found ultimately that both of them were unfit to hold office. And, of course, the matter was then referred to the president, who then fired both of them. But, of course, there's still a process that still has to be done. That matter now has to go before Parliament, which then has to take a decision on whether they should stay or go. So what Nomgcobo Jiba is arguing is that, of course, she's saying that there is motive behind this particular testimony by Nxasana and questioning the timing of it, really saying that, the timing of it suggests that they want to influence the outcome of that particular decision that still has to be taken by Cabinet. And that's the reason why she wants it stopped. Of course, her name has come up in numerous of these commissions on how she was involved in sort of trying to block or trying to vilify those who had been involved in campaigns to try and fight corruption. The name of the former Hawks head, Arnold Ramat, coming up, Johan van Lochenberg, for example, even the former IPID boss, Robert McBride himself.
All right, Manqoba, before we continue, let's take a look at this clip where you have that application being brought for that testimony to stop.
Might be the first one, which is to allow the witness to testify further, because he's quite right, we can't stop the witness from giving evidence in the public domain, but then not to give evidence that would implicate Ms. Jiba and the other persons who are not represented by me.
All right, Manqoba, now more allegations, of course, being brought up in that particular testimony about interference in the National Prosecuting Authority. A lot has been said about that, but it's come up again.
Yes, of course, Crystal. You remember from the testimony of the former IPID boss, Robert McBride, as well as the testimony of former KZN Hawks boss, Johan Boyson, how, of course, some of those officials within the NPA had tried to actually vilify some of those who had been fighting corruption, even coming up with criminal cases to try and implicate them in ways like that. So What we heard this time around is that, of course, there was political interference. And this is what Robert McBride also said previously, and also what the former KZN Hawks head has also said, that there was political interference in so far as certain cases were involved, sensitive cases involving senior politicians, the likes of the former President Jacob Zuma. And, of course, he as well saying that there was political interference at the time he was there, and there was also external influence when he was there at the NPA. And I don't know whether you have that clip ready, but let's take a listen to what he had to say.
Including implicated persons. I have made it clear over the past year or so, both in media briefings and in this venue, that implicated persons will be dealt with fairly as well. They must be dealt with fairly, and that nobody will have findings made against them just because of what the media may be saying about them or against them. Any findings that will be made on the basis of evidence led in the commission. And throughout we continue to try and be fair to everybody. I thought I must just emphasize that. And again, to the extent that there may have been any thinking that Mr. Nxasana's being here is timed by anybody to coincide with anything. Again, I indicate that he was called because I gave directions.
All right, Manqoba, essentially that clip from Justice Zondo basically talking about, in a nutshell, the fact that Nomgcobo Jiba does have a leg to stand on the basis of what she brought to the commission. Would she then be able to apply for cross-examination in this particular instance?
Well, of course, Griselda, at this stage, she hasn't indicated whether, in fact, she will be wanting to cross-examine Mxolisi Nxasana. But, of course, I think from what the applications that she's brought, the inference is that at a later stage, she'll, of course, want to challenge some of that evidence that Nxasana has brought to the commission. And, of course, she'll do this in a form of cross-examination. So we're hoping that once this process is completed, of course, she might file an application for cross-examination. All
right, thank you very much for your time. Manqoba Mchunu has been monitoring the Commission of Inquiry into state capture there for us. Francis?